The survey drone beeped twice and died. Diana Okoye tapped the screen with her knuckle, hoping the old percussive maintenance trick would work. It did not. She sighed and made a note to add another broken probe to the list of equipment they would need to replace once they found a decent trading post outside the viewport. Space looked exactly like it had for the past 3 weeks. Empty, boring, full of rocks that all had the same basic composition. The Dauntless was a small ship by any standard, built for long-range exploration with a crew that could fit in a large house back on Earth, 47 people. Most of them scientists who spent their days arguing about mineral deposits and stellar classifications. "We just crossed some kind of boundary marker," announced Raymond Liu from the communications station. He was eating an apple, which technically violated the rules about food on the bridge, but Diana had given up enforcing that particular regulation months ago. "What kind of marker?" Diana asked, already knowing she probably would not like the answer. "No idea. It was weird, though. Like, really old tech. I almost missed it because our sensors thought it was background radiation." Before Diana could respond, the proximity alarm started screaming. She pulled up the tactical display and felt her stomach drop. 200 contacts had just appeared on sensors, surrounding them in a perfect sphere. They were big ships, too, each one at least 5 times the size of the Dauntless. "Well, that's new," said James Wright from the security console. He was a broad-shouldered man who treated every crisis with the same calm demeanor he used when ordering lunch. "Should I power up weapons?" "Let's maybe not start a fight with 200 ships," Diana replied. "Raymond, can you open a channel?" "Already done. They've been hailing us for about 30 seconds now." The main screen flickered to life, showing a creature that looked like someone had crossed an octopus with a bird and then given it far too many eyes. It wore what appeared to be an elaborate uniform covered in medals and symbols. When it spoke, the translation software struggled for a moment before settling on a voice that sounded deeply offended. "Unknown vessel? You have violated collective space without authorization, without proper identification, and without following any established approach protocols. Power down your engines and prepare to be escorted to Gateway Station for diplomatic processing." Diana glanced at Raymond, who shrugged. She looked back at the alien on the screen. "Hi there. I'm Captain Diana Okoye of the Earth vessel Dauntless. We're on a survey mission and honestly had no idea we crossed into anyone's territory. Your boundary markers are pretty subtle. We'd be happy to come chat, though. Gateway Station sounds nice." The alien's eyes all blinked in sequence, which the translation software helpfully noted indicated extreme confusion. "You will be escorted by military enforcement ships. This is not a social visit. You have committed severe violations of interstellar law." "Right, sure. We'll follow your ships. Just let us know which way to go." The channel closed abruptly. James chuckled from his station. "I don't think they expected you to be so cooperative," he said. "Why wouldn't we cooperate? We clearly stepped on someone's lawn. Least we can do is apologize properly." Diana pulled up the navigation controls. "Besides, I'm curious. 200 ships showing up that fast means serious infrastructure. Might be good people to know." The escort formation moved with practiced precision, boxing them in but leaving enough room to maneuver. Diana followed their lead, matching their speed and trajectory. Paulo Santos, the chief engineer, wandered onto the bridge carrying a tablet covered in grease stains. "Hey, boss, you seeing this sensor data? These ships are running some kind of synchronized power grid. I think they're sharing energy between vessels to maintain formation. That's pretty clever, but their efficiency curve is all wrong. They're losing like 15% to transmission loss." "Please don't tell them their ships are inefficient when we get there," Diana said. "Why not? It's a simple fix. Just need to recalibrate the field harmonics. Because we're already in trouble, and I'd rather not add insulting their engineering to the list of problems." Paulo looked genuinely confused by this logic, but went back to his engine room without further comment. The journey to Gateway Station took 6 hours. When it finally appeared on their sensors, even Diana had to admit it was impressive. The station was enormous, easily the size of Earth's moon, covered in docking bays and sensor arrays and what looked like entire cities built onto its surface. Thousands of ships moved around it in carefully controlled patterns. Okay. That's actually pretty cool, Raymond said. Taking pictures with his personal camera, they were guided to a docking bay that could have held 50 ships their size. As soon as the Dauntless settled onto the landing pad, armed guards surrounded them. At least Diana assumed they were guards based on the weapons and armor. They came in 6 different body configurations, representing what must have been different species. The main airlock opened to reveal the same octopus bird alien from earlier, accompanied by an even larger creature that looked like an upright tortoise made of crystal. "I am Enforcement Commander Quilvin," said the octopus bird. "You will follow me to the Diplomatic Processing Center. Do not deviate from the designated path. Do not touch anything. Do not speak unless spoken to. Can we take pictures?" Raymond asked immediately. Quilvin's eyes did the blinking thing again. "This is not a tourist facility, right? But like, we're never going to see something this amazing again? Just a few photos?" "I suppose there is no regulation specifically forbidding it," Quilvin said slowly. As if the concept had never occurred to them before, Raymond grinned and started, snapping pictures like an excited kid at a theme park. Diana followed the alien escorts down a corridor so large they could have driven a bus through it. The walls were covered in scripts from dozens of languages, and everywhere she looked, different species hurried about their business. This was either going to be the best diplomatic incident of her career or the worst. Given how today was going, probably both. The processing center looked like someone had built a cathedral and then filled it with the galaxy's most uncomfortable chairs. Diana sat in one that seemed designed for a species with 3 rear ends, trying to find a position that did not make her spine hurt. Around her, the rest of the crew had scattered to various corners of the massive waiting room, each dealing with the situation in their own way. Dr. Ruth Abrams had found a garden area, meant for meditation, and was currently scanning every plant she could reach with her portable analysis kit. A small crowd of aliens watched her with what Diana assumed was alarm, though it was hard to tell with species she had never seen before. Paulo had somehow talked his way into a maintenance area and was deep in conversation with what looked like a floating jellyfish made of metal. They were gesturing at a wall panel, and Paulo kept shaking his head like he was explaining something to a student who was not quite getting it. Raymond was still taking pictures, now with a small group of younger aliens who seemed fascinated by his camera. He was showing them how to use the zoom function, and they were making sounds that the translator interpreted as delighted laughter. "This is highly irregular," said Quilvin, appearing at Diana's elbow. "Your crew does not behave like any first contact species I have encountered in 300 years of service." "Sorry about that," Diana said, genuinely meaning it. "We're curious people. It's kind of our thing. We see something new and we want to understand it. Understanding requires permission, order, protocol." Quilvin's tentacles rippled in what might have been frustration. "Your kind simply acts and deals with consequences later." "Yeah, that sounds about right." Diana smiled. "Look, we really didn't mean to cause trouble. We were just mapping systems and cataloging phenomena. Standard exploration stuff. If you can point us toward whoever we need to apologize to officially, we'll do that and get out of your way. It is not that simple. The Collective Council must evaluate your species, determine your classification tier, establish diplomatic frameworks. This process typically takes several cycles. Cycles like days or cycles like years? Your days. Perhaps 40 or 50. Diana whistled softly. "That's a lot of sitting around. Any chance we could help with something while we wait? My crew gets antsy when they're idle." Quilvin's eyes did the sequential blinking thing again. Diana was starting to recognize it as their version of visible confusion. "Help with what?" "I don't know." "Whatever needs doing. Polo is great with engineering problems. Ruth knows biology inside and out. James can handle security consulting. Raymond speaks like 12 languages now that he's got your translation database. We're useful people. The collective has millions of specialists for every conceivable task. We do not require assistance from a species we met 6 hours ago. Suit yourself. Just thought I'd offer. A different alien approached, this one resembling a pile of rocks that had learned to walk. It spoke in a grinding voice that made the translator work overtime. Commander Quilvin, there is a situation developing in Garden Sector 7. The human has been collecting biological samples without quarantine clearance. Diana sighed and stood up. That would be Ruth. I'll go get her. She found her xenobiologist crouched beside a fountain, carefully placing soil samples into collection tubes. 2 security guards stood nearby, clearly unsure whether to intervene or just watch. Ruth, you're supposed to ask before taking samples. I did ask, Ruth said without looking up. I asked that nice purple person over there if these plants were important and they said no, so I figured it was fine. Asking if they're important is not the same as asking permission to take them. Why not? If they're not important, what's the harm? Ruth finally looked up, her face genuinely puzzled. Besides, I already found 3 potential antibiotic compounds and what might be a natural antifungal. These people are sitting on a pharmaceutical gold mine and they're using it for decoration? One of the security guards, a creature with too many legs and a face like a flower, spoke up. Quarantine protocols exist to prevent biological contamination. You could be carrying pathogens dangerous to station populations. Ruth laughed. Friend, I'm from Earth. Our quarantine protocols would make yours look like suggestions. I've survived 4 pandemics, 2 fungal outbreaks, and a bacterial infection that tried to eat my leg when I was doing fieldwork in the Amazon. If I was carrying something dangerous, you'd already know. That is not how regulations work, Quilvin said, having followed Diana to the garden. Rules exist for everyone's safety. Sure, I get that. But your rules assume everyone is equally fragile. Earth isn't a nice place. Our bacteria could probably fight your bacteria and win. So really you should be worried about what I might catch from your garden, not what I might give it. Diana pinched the bridge of her nose. Ruth, please just put the samples back. Already logged them in my database. Putting them back won't delete the information. Then do it as a gesture of goodwill. Ruth grumbled but complied, carefully replacing each sample container where she had found it. The security guards looked at each other with what might have been relief. An alarm started blaring somewhere in the distance. Quilvin touched a device on their uniform and listened to a rapid stream of information. There is a medical emergency in the civilian quarter. A child has been exposed to a toxic substance. All available medical personnel are responding. What kind of toxic substance? Ruth asked immediately. That information is not for unauthorized personnel. I'm a doctor. Well, a xenobiologist, but I've got medical training. Maybe I can help. The collective has highly trained medical teams. Your assistance is not required. Ruth was already walking toward the exit. Great. You won't mind if I just go watch and learn then? Educational observation. Very diplomatic. She was gone before Quilvin could object. Diana shrugged apologetically. She's going to help whether you want her to or not. It's what she does. Honestly, your best bet is to just let her and then yell at me about it later. Quilvin made a sound that the translator gave up trying to interpret. Diana took that as permission and followed Ruth toward the medical emergency, trailed by increasingly flustered alien officials, who were learning that humans did not wait for permission when people needed help. The collective testing facility occupied an entire wing of Gateway Station, filled with equipment designed to measure everything from raw strength to tactical thinking. Diana stood in the observation gallery with Quilvin and several council members, watching as her crew underwent evaluation after evaluation. These tests have been refined over thousands of years, explained a council member who resembled a walking tree branch. Every species undergoes them. The results determine classification tier, resource allocation, and diplomatic standing. Sounds fair? Diana said. Below, James was being asked to lift progressively heavier weights. He managed the first 3 easily, struggled with the 4th, and failed completely on the 5th. The testers noted his results with what looked like satisfaction. Your species shows average physical strength, the tree branch alien said, comparable to Tier 3 classifications. Yeah, we're not the strongest species on our own planet, Diana agreed. We mostly got by on being stubborn and clever. The next test involved reaction speed. Raymond sat in a chair surrounded by lights that flashed in random patterns. He had to press corresponding buttons as fast as possible. His scores were decent but not exceptional. The testers seemed pleased with this as well, carefully marking humans as average in yet another category. Polo's engineering test was more interesting. They gave him a broken device and asked him to repair it using only the tools provided. He looked at it for maybe 30 seconds, then completely disassembled it in a way that made the proctors nervous. This design is backwards, Polo said, holding up a component. You've got the power flow running through 3 unnecessary junctions. No wonder it broke. Hand me that welding torch. The test is to repair the device as designed, not redesign it, said one of the proctors. But my way is better. Look, I can show you the efficiency calculations. Please just fix it the correct way. Paulo sighed like a teacher dealing with a stubborn student but complied. He repaired the device in half the allotted time, then spent the remaining minutes sketching out his improved version on a spare datapad. The weapon proficiency test went about as expected. Humans were not the fastest shots, not the most accurate, and their eyesight was considered poor by galactic standards. What did seem to bother the testers was their refusal to quit. Even after failing multiple scenarios, the human security team kept trying different approaches, adapting tactics and generally treating failure as just another form of data collection. They do not accept defeat gracefully, observed Quilvin. We're not great at accepting defeat at all, Diana said. It's kind of a problem sometimes. The final test was tactical simulation. They put Diana in a command chair and gave her control of a small fleet facing overwhelming odds. The scenario was designed to be unwinnable, a test of how commanders handled inevitable loss. Diana studied the tactical display for a long moment. The enemy fleet was bigger, better armed, and better positioned. Standard tactics would fail. Defensive positions would be overrun. Retreat would be cut off. She started giving orders anyway. Concentrate fire on their flagship. All ships, full burn toward their center. The simulated fleet obeyed. The enemy responded exactly as predicted, moving to envelope her forces. Diana waited until the last possible second, then ordered a hard scatter in every direction. You are dividing your already inferior forces, said a proctor. This ensures defeat. Maybe, but now I've got 12 ships moving in 12 different directions, and they've got to split up to chase all of us. Some of my ships will survive. They'll carry information about enemy tactics back to allied forces. Total defeat becomes partial victory. The simulation played out. 8 of her 12 ships were destroyed, but 4 escaped. The proctors looked at each other with expressions Diana could not read. The test is designed to evaluate command under impossible circumstances. You were not supposed to win. I didn't win. I just lost less badly than you expected. Diana leaned back in the chair. Look, humans have been fighting impossible odds for our entire history. We've learned that total victory isn't always the goal. Sometimes you just try to make sure the other side remembers fighting you was expensive. The results were compiled over the next several hours. Diana and her crew were brought before the council for the official evaluation. Quilvin read from a data tablet, their tentacles rippling with what might have been amusement. The human species demonstrates average capabilities across most measured categories. Your technology is approximately 600 standard years behind current collective standards. Your physical abilities are unremarkable. Your tactical doctrine is unconventional but not exceptional. So we're pretty middle of the road, Diana said. I can live with that. However, Quilvin continued, your species displays several unusual characteristics. You show extreme persistence in the face of failure. You demonstrate creativity and problem-solving that borders on reckless. You form social bonds rapidly with other species. And you possess an almost disturbing refusal to be impressed by superior force or technology. One of the council members, a crystalline being that sparkled in the light, spoke up. When informed your technology was 600 years primitive, Your response was to say you were ahead of schedule. This is not a normal reaction. Well, we've only been in space for about 300 years, Diana said. So by our math, we're actually doing pretty well. That is exactly the attitude that concerns us, the crystalline alien said. You do not react to the collective with appropriate awe or fear. You treat this station like a tourist destination. You offer to help with tasks as if you were neighbors, not newly discovered species facing galactic power. Should we be scared? Diana asked honestly. I mean, you've been pretty reasonable so far. Bit heavy on the regulations, but that's just government for you. Are you planning to do something that would make being scared a good idea? The council members looked at each other. Quilvin made that untranslatable sound again. No, they finally said. We are not planning hostilities. But most species show more deference. Deference seems like a waste of time, Diana said. You've got knowledge we want to learn. We've probably got perspectives you haven't considered. Why not just talk to each other like normal people? The council went silent for a long moment. Finally, the tree branch alien spoke. We will need time to determine appropriate classification for your species. You do not fit our existing frameworks, Diana smiled. We get that a lot. The marketplace stretched across 3 levels of gateway station, filled with vendors from hundreds of worlds selling everything imaginable. Raymond walked through the chaos with the enthusiasm of someone at their favorite shopping mall, while Diana trailed behind trying to keep him from accidentally starting an interstellar incident. Look at this, Raymond said, holding up what appeared to be a chunk of refined metal. The vendor says it's premium starship hull plating. Wants 500 credits for it. Is that a good price? Diana asked. No idea. I've been checking prices at other stalls, though. He pulled out his datapad, which now had a spreadsheet covering 6 different stations in collective space. Same material goes for 200 credits on Outpost 7, 350 on the inner stations. And this guy wants 500 because he thinks we're ignorant newcomers. The vendor, a slug-like creature with too many eye stalks, made an offended gurgling sound. Premium quality requires premium price, it said through the translator. Raymond smiled politely and showed the vendor his spreadsheet. I've got price comparisons from 14 different sellers across 6 stations. Your material is identical to what others sell for 60% less. I'll give you 225 credits, which is fair market value plus a small profit for the convenience of buying local. The vendor's eye stalks waved in agitation. You have been in collective space for 3 days. How do you have price data from 6 stations? Public trading networks. Your economic data is all accessible if you know where to look. Also, I've been talking to other traders. Nice folks, very helpful once you buy them a drink and ask about their work. The vendor made a sound that might have been resignation and accepted the 225 credits. Raymond thanked them cheerfully and moved to the next stall. You're having too much fun with this, Diana said. I minored in economics back on Earth. This is fascinating. The collective has a stable economy that's been running for thousands of years, but it's got all these inefficiencies built in, because nobody questions the old systems. They passed a stall where Paulo was trading a box of spare parts from the Dauntless for what looked like a pile of broken equipment. The vendor seemed thrilled with the exchange. Paulo looked like he had just won the lottery. What did you get? Diana asked. No idea yet, Paulo said happily, already examining a piece of the equipment. But their junk is made from materials we don't have on Earth. I can probably repurpose most of this. Already got ideas for improving our sensor array. You traded our spare parts for garbage. Their garbage? Our treasure. It's all perspective, boss. Further down the market, Ruth had set up an impromptu medical clinic. A line of aliens stretched around the corner, waiting to talk to her. Quilvin stood nearby looking like they wanted to object, but could not figure out what rule was actually being broken. What's happening here? Diana asked. Your doctor is providing free medical consultations, Quilvin said. She has no license to practice medicine in collective space. No authorization. No proper facilities. I'm not practicing medicine, Ruth called over. I'm just talking to people about their health. Giving advice? That's not illegal, is it? It violates 47 different regulations. But is it illegal? Quilvin's tentacles nodded in frustration. Not technically. Ruth was currently examining a small reptilian alien who complained of chronic pain. She asked questions, did a basic physical examination with the alien's permission, and then nodded thoughtfully. Your species is silicon-based, right? Ruth asked. Yes, the alien hissed. And you've been living on this station for how long? 15 years. The station uses standard carbon-based life support. Your atmosphere mix is probably slightly off for your biology. Not enough to be dangerous, but enough to cause inflammation in your joints over time. You need more sulfur dioxide in your air mix. Just a tiny amount. Talk to environmental services about adjusting your quarters. The alien stared at her. I've seen 6 doctors about this pain. All of them prescribed medication. Medication treats symptoms? I'm trying to fix the cause. If adjusting your air doesn't work, come back and we'll try something else. The alien made a grateful sound and hurried off. The next patient stepped forward. Diana pulled Ruth aside. You're making the local doctors look bad. I'm making them look lazy, Ruth corrected. Most of these problems are simple stuff that nobody bothered to really investigate. That guy with the headaches? He's drinking water that's slightly too acidic for his species. The lady with the rash? She's allergic to the standard station soap. Basic problem solving. You're doing this for free. Of course I'm doing it for free. What am I going to do? Charge people for 5 minutes of conversation. A merchant approached Diana, tentacles quivering with excitement. You are the human captain, yes? I have proposal for you. I'm listening. I sell information, maps, trade routes, political intelligence. Very valuable. For you, special newcomer price. Only 10,000 credits for basic package. Diana raised an eyebrow. That's a lot of credits. Information is most valuable commodity in galaxy. You are new species. You need knowledge to survive. Raymond appeared at Diana's elbow. I've got access to most of that through public databases. What exactly are you selling that isn't freely available? The merchant's confidence faltered slightly. Premium analysis. Expert interpretation. So opinions about publicly available data. Very expert opinions. I'll give you 100 credits for your top 10 trade routes, Raymond said. That's generous considering I can probably figure them out myself in a few hours. The merchant deflated but took the credits. As they walked away, Raymond grinned. These people have been running the same economic systems for so long they've forgotten that information wants to be free. Most of what they're selling as secrets is just data nobody bothered to organize properly. A commotion erupted near the station's environmental controls. Alarms started blaring. Over the intercom, a panicked voice announced a major recycler failure in Sector 9. Thousands of residents would lose air filtration within hours. Paulo was already running toward the problem before Diana could say anything. James and half the security team followed him, along with Ruth, who grabbed her medical kit just in case. Your crew does not wait for authorization, Quilvin observed. No, Diana agreed. They really don't. But they're about to fix your problem anyway, so maybe just let them? Quilvin's eyes did the blinking thing, but they followed the humans toward the crisis without trying to stop them. The stellar phenomenon had no name in any language, just a catalog number that translated to something like the thing that eats stars. Diana watched it on the long-range sensors as she drank coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. The phenomenon looked like a wound in space itself, growing larger as it consumed matter and energy from everything nearby. 3 inhabited planets sat directly in its path. Collective emergency services were mobilizing, but according to their timeline, full evacuation would take 8 days. The phenomenon would reach the first planet in 6. That's a problem, Raymond said, unnecessarily. The collective has protocols for this, Quilvin explained through the comlink. Evacuation ships are being dispatched. Emergency shelters are being prepared. Everything is proceeding according to established procedures. How many people are you going to lose? Diana asked, a pause. Acceptable losses are calculated at approximately 12% of the population, primarily those in remote areas or those who refuse to evacuate. 12% of how many? Roughly 4 million beings across all 3 worlds. Diana felt something cold settle in her stomach. You're just accepting that 4 million people are going to die? We are doing everything possible within established safety parameters. Our rescue teams cannot be put at unnecessary risk. The protocols exist for good reason. How far are we from the first planet? Diana asked her crew. About 16 hours at maximum burn, Paulo said from engineering. But boss, our ship isn't designed for this kind of rescue operation. We've got capacity for maybe 200 passengers if we pack them in like cargo. 200 is better than 0. Diana started plotting a course. Paulo, I need you to strip every non-essential system and convert it to life support. Ruth, figure out what medical supplies we need for 200 refugees from species we've never met. James, start planning how to move people efficiently. Captain Okoye, Quilvin said urgently. You do not have authorization to enter the evacuation zone. The phenomenon creates dangerous spatial distortions. Your ship could be destroyed. You can send us the authorization paperwork while we're flying. We'll sign it when we get there. This is not proper procedure. I know. We're really bad at proper procedure. But people need help right now, not 8 days from now when all the forms are filed. The Dauntless broke from Gateway Station at full thrust, pushing their engines past recommended limits. Paulo worked miracles in the engineering bay, rerouting power from weapons, sensors, everything they did not absolutely need. He converted 2 cargo holds into makeshift living spaces with basic life support. They reached the first planet in 14 hours. The surface was already experiencing severe weather disruptions from the approaching phenomenon. Collective evacuation ships worked methodically, taking people from designated gathering points in order of priority. Diana ignored the designated points. She took the Dauntless down to a small farming community that was marked as low priority, scheduled for evacuation on day 7. A day after the phenomenon would arrive. These people have been written off, she told her crew. Let's prove that wrong. The farmers were a species that looked like bipedal bears with too many arms. They did not understand why a strange alien ship was landing in their fields. But James and his security team managed to communicate through a combination of hand signals, translator glitches, and pure determination. Big danger coming, James said slowly, pointing at the sky. We take you to safety, now. The farmers looked at their fields, their homes, everything they had built. One of them, an elder with gray fur, spoke in a rumbling voice. We cannot leave our harvest. We will starve without it. You'll definitely starve if you're dead, Ruth said. Look, bring what you can carry. We'll fit it on the ship. They loaded 243 farmers, their most precious possessions, and approximately 3 tons of harvested crops that they refused to leave behind. The Dauntless groaned under the weight. Paulo performed calculations that made him swear in 3 languages, then rerouted even more power to the engines. We are significantly over capacity, he reported. Like dangerously over capacity? If we hit any turbulence, we might shake apart? Then fly smooth, Diana said. Next stop? They hit 6 more communities marked as low priority. Each time, they packed in more refugees than the ship was designed to hold. People sat in corridors in the engine room, anywhere there was space. The life support systems wheezed under the strain. Ruth moved through the crowds providing medical care, treating injuries and calming panicked children from a dozen different species. By the time they reached orbit again, they had 917 refugees on a ship designed for 47 crew. The Dauntless handled like a pregnant whale, slow and awkward and threatening to fall apart at any moment. Collective command is demanding we dock immediately, Raymond reported. They say we're a navigational hazard and our ship is in danger of catastrophic failure. Tell them we'll dock as soon as we transfer these people to their evacuation ships. Diana said. The transfer took hours. Each refugee had to be logged, medically screened, and assigned to appropriate care facilities. The collective officials who processed them kept looking at the humans with expressions that ranged from confusion to something that might have been respect. "You saved 917 lives," Quilvin said as the last refugee departed. "But you violated dozens of safety regulations. Your ship could have been destroyed. Your crew could have died." "But we didn't," Diana said. She was exhausted, covered in dirt and sweat, and her ship smelled like a combination of too many different alien species in close quarters. And 917 people who were supposed to die are alive. That seems like a good trade. The collective could have eventually reached them. Eventually wasn't good enough. The other collective evacuation ships continued their work, following procedures and protocols. They would save millions of lives over the next week. Working with practiced efficiency. But in the communities the Dauntless had visited, word spread quickly. The humans had come when no one else would. They had broken rules and ignored safety margins and written off populations like they mattered. 4 more human ships arrived over the next 2 days, responding to Diana's call for help. They were research vessels, cargo haulers, anything with a working engine and a crew willing to push their luck. Together, they pulled another 6,000 refugees from low-priority areas, flying ships that were never meant for rescue work and saving people who were never supposed to survive. The collective watched and learned something important. Humans did not wait for proper authorization when lives were at stake. They just helped and dealt with the paperwork later. The collective council chamber could have held 10,000 beings, but today it felt crowded with just the council members and one small group of humans. Diana stood at the center with her crew, trying not to fidget while the most powerful political body in the galaxy debated what to do with them. The humans have violated approximately 347 regulations. Since their arrival, said the Crystalline Council member, they ignore protocols. They disregard safety standards. They act without authorization. They also saved over 7,000 lives, countered the tree branch alien. Lives that our own projections had classified as acceptable losses. Which raises uncomfortable questions about our projections, added another council member who looked like a floating brain in a jar. Perhaps we have become too accepting of acceptable losses. Quilvin stood to one side, tentacles rippling with what Diana had learned to recognize as conflicted emotions. Over the past weeks, the enforcement commander had tried repeatedly to make the humans follow proper procedures and had failed every single time. "The question before us is simple," said the crystalline being. "How do we classify a species that refuses to be classified? They are technologically primitive but practically effective. They are politically insignificant but socially influential. They are militarily weak but strategically bold." "I have a proposal," Quilvin said, their voice uncertain. "We create a new classification. Provisional members with cultural exemptions." The council members looked at each other. The tree branch alien spoke first. "Explain." "We acknowledge that humans operate outside normal frameworks. Rather than forcing them to conform or expelling them, we give them limited membership with explicit permission to ignore certain protocols. They get access to collective resources and protection. We get the benefit of their unusual perspectives without the constant regulatory violations." "That sets a dangerous precedent," the crystalline being said. "Every species will want exemptions." "Every species is not human," Quilvin replied. "Most species want to follow the rules. Humans seem incapable of it even when they try. This classification acknowledges reality rather than fighting it." The council debated for another hour. Diana was pretty sure they could have reached the same conclusion in 10 minutes, but apparently long discussions were part of the process. Finally, they called for a vote. The measure passed with a narrow majority. "Captain O'Coy," the crystalline being said formally. "On behalf of the Collective Council, we offer humanity provisional membership. You will have access to our trade networks, our knowledge databases, and our protection. In exchange, we ask only that you try not to break too many rules at once." Diana tried not to smile. We'll do our best. No promises, though. We expect nothing less. The crystalline being actually seemed amused. There will be paperwork to finalize this arrangement. Quite a lot of paperwork. Raymond loves paperwork, Diana lied cheerfully. Raymond shot her a look that promised revenge later. The formal ceremony took another 3 hours. They had to sign documents in 40 different languages, pose for official photographs, and sit through speeches from council members who wanted to be remembered as part of this historic moment. Diana managed to stay awake for most of it, though she definitely dozed off during the speech about proper diplomatic integration procedures. Finally, mercifully it ended. As they walked back toward the Dauntless, Quilvin accompanied them. I still do not understand your species, the enforcement commander admitted. You show no fear of power. No awe at our accomplishments. You treated the greatest alliance in galactic history like a neighborhood you just moved into. Should we have been more afraid? Diana asked genuinely. I mean, you've been pretty reasonable. Bit stuffy with the regulations, but nobody's perfect. Most species are terrified of us, or at least respectfully cautious. Fear seems like a waste of energy. You've got things to teach us. We've probably got things to teach you. Why complicate it with fear? They reached the docking bay where the Dauntless waited. The ship had been repaired after its overloaded rescue mission, though Paulo swore the engine still made a weird rattling sound that should not exist. Where will you go now? Quilvin asked. Out there, Diana said, gesturing vaguely at space. There's a lot of galaxy to explore. We've got maybe 300 years of catching up to do if we want to match your technology level. You could stay here, learn from our scientists, study in our universities. We would provide resources for your advancement. That's generous, but we learn better by doing. We'll make mistakes, build things that don't work, probably blow up a few experiments. Better to do that away from your nice station. Polo had already disappeared into the ship, no doubt to tinker with something. Ruth was saying goodbye to the friends she had made in the medical bay, exchanging contact information and promising to share research. James and his security team were loading supplies, including several crates of spare parts that Polo had acquired through what he insisted was legitimate trade. Raymond approached with a datapad covered in notes. I've got trading contacts at 16 stations, a list of good repair facilities, and about 40 invitations to visit various worlds. Apparently we're popular. We saved a bunch of people and mostly didn't start any wars, Diana said. Low bar, but we cleared it. A group of younger aliens approached, members of species that Diana had only met briefly during their stay. One of them, a small reptilian being, spoke up nervously. Captain Okoye, we wanted to thank you. Your crew showed us that the collective's way is not the only way. That rules can be questioned. That helping people matters more than following procedures. Just be smart about it, Diana advised. We can get away with breaking rules because we're new and weird. You folks have to live here. Pick your battles. We will, the reptilian promised. But we will pick them. The crew boarded the ship. Diana took one last look at Gateway Station, this massive monument to galactic civilization that her crew had somehow befriended, scandalized and improved all at the same time. Boss, we ready to go? Paulo called from the bridge. Yeah, Diana said, settling into her chair. Let's see what's out there. The Dauntless undocked and flew away from Gateway Station, leaving behind a collective that would never quite be the same. In meeting rooms and cafeterias, in workshops and medical bays, people talked about the humans. The species that walked into the greatest power in the galaxy and treated it like just another interesting place to visit. Quilvin watched them go, and updated humanity's official file one last time. Under special handling instructions, they added a note that would become standard across all collective facilities. When dealing with humans, expect the unexpected. They will ignore your protocols, question your assumptions, and help people you did not know needed helping. Do not try to intimidate them. It will not work. Instead, point them at problems and get out of their way. Results will be chaotic but effective. The galaxy would never quite understand humanity, but it would learn to appreciate them. Sometimes the best thing a civilization could do was let in a little chaos and see what happened. Usually, what happened was pretty good.